Hey guys, tonight we are slipping back, way back, into a world woven from sun, sand, and the slow, steady pulse of a singular, life-giving river. Imagine the air, thick and warm against your skin, carrying the faint, sweet scent of lotus blossoms and damp earth. You're standing on the banks of the Nile, the very heart of ancient Egypt, a civilization that believed dreams were not just random firings of the brain, but whispered messages from the gods, glimpses into a future that could be read like a sacred text. This is a world where your survival depends on the whims of deities, the flooding of a river, and your ability to interpret the shadowy theater of your own mind. Honestly, given the state of their medicine and the prevalence of hungry crocodiles, you probably won't survive this journey. But it's a lovely place to visit in your imagination. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. As always, I'd love to see you post your location and what time it is for you in the comments below. It's always a quiet thrill to see where everyone is drifting off from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your feet sink just slightly into the soft, dark soil. This is Kemet, the Black Land, the narrow, fertile ribbon of life that owes its existence entirely to the river beside you. The name itself is a declaration of identity, a constant reminder of where life begins and ends. To your left and right, as far as you can see, this miraculous black earth stretches, nourished year after year by the predictable, gentle flooding of the Nile. This annual event, the inundation, wasn't a terrifying, destructive force, but a welcome guest, a promise kept. It was the central, reliable beat in the rhythm of Egyptian life, the foundation of their stability and their entire worldview. You can almost feel that rhythm now, a slow, patient certainty in the air. Beyond the reach of the water, in the hazy distance, lies the Deshret, the Red Land, the vast, sterile and terrifying expanse of the desert. Life here is a stark duality, the vibrant black and the lifeless red. Order and chaos. Existence and oblivion. And you are standing right on the edge of that profound boundary. You lift a hand to shield your eyes from the sun, a relentless, golden orb that the Egyptians knew as the god Ra. The heat is not aggressive, but a constant, heavy presence, like a warm blanket laid over the world. You can feel it on your eyelids, a gentle pressure inviting them to close. The light reflecting off the slow-moving water creates a shimmering, hypnotic dance that makes the world feel slightly unreal, a little hazy. It's this gentle distortion of the waking world that perhaps made the dream world feel so close, so accessible. If the daylight world could shimmer and waver, it wasn't such a great leap to believe that the world you entered in sleep was just as real, just another place your spirit could wander. Everyone around you, from the field worker to the pharaoh's wife, wears the same distinctive thick, dark eyeliner. It's not just vanity, though it does create a striking, almond-shaped gaze. This kohl eyeliner is their all-in-one ancient multi-tool. It cuts the sun's glare. It's believed to have antibacterial properties that ward off eye infections carried by the ever-present flies, and most importantly, it offers magical protection, a ward against the evil eye. A little bit of fashion, a little bit of practical science, and a whole lot of magic, all mixed into a single pot of paste. You start to walk, your pace unhurried. There's no reason to rush here. The day unfolds according to the sun's slow arc across the sky, not the ticking of a clock. You pass by a patch of tall, green papyrus reeds swaying gently in the subtle breeze coming off the water. The sound is a soft, dry rustle, a natural whisper track accompanying the lapping of the river. These reeds are everything. They are the paper of the empire, the material for sandals, the building blocks for small fishing skiffs. Seeing them in their natural state, you understand how deeply the environment was woven into the fabric of daily life and thought. The tools of civilization weren't imported or synthesized. They grew right here, out of the sacred black mud. There's a profound sense of rootedness, of belonging to this specific place. The outside world, beyond the deserts and the sea, might as well be another planet. Your entire universe is this river valley, this cradle of existence. As you meander, you listen to the sounds of this ancient evening beginning to settle. The sharp cries of ibises wading in the shallows, the lowing of cattle being led home from the fields, the distant sound of voices calling to one another, their words softened by the distance and the humid air. There is no engine noise, no electronic hum, no distant siren. The soundscape is entirely organic, entirely human and natural. It's a quiet that we in our time rarely, if ever, experience. It's a quiet that leaves room for thought, for introspection, for noticing the subtle shifts in the world around you and, perhaps, the world within you. Historians still argue whether the average Egyptian lived in a state of constant, low-grade anxiety about divine wrath and monstrous demons, or if the predictable nature of their world, anchored by the Nile, gave them a deep, placid sense of security. The truth, as always, is likely somewhere in the middle, a life of knowing your place in a grand, cosmic order, while also knowing that chaos, in the form of a scorpion, a fever, or a bad omen in a dream, was always lurking just at the edges. Your thoughts begin to slow, matching the pace of the river beside you. The sun is dipping lower now, painting the sky in hues of orange, pink, and a deep, bruised purple. The heat of the day is finally beginning to recede, replaced by a soft, welcome coolness that seems to rise from the water itself. You find a smooth, warm stone to sit on, and you just watch. You watch the water, dark and mysterious, flow endlessly north. This river has seen everything. It has watched dynasties rise and fall, temples built to the sky and then crumble back into the sand. It has carried the royal barges of pharaohs and the simple reed boats of fishermen. It has heard prayers and curses, whispers of lovers and the cries of newborns. And tonight, as you sit here, it seems to be holding its breath, waiting for the world of light and work to give way to the world of darkness and dreams. The very air feels pregnant with possibility, as if the veil between worlds is at its thinnest here, at this twilight hour. You think about your own bed, your own sleep that awaits you. But here, the concept feels different. It's not just a rest for the body. It's a journey, an appointment, an audience with the forces that shape destiny. And the first step of that journey is simply this: letting go of the day and trusting the quiet, ancient wisdom of the night. The deep purple of the twilight sky now darkens to a soft, velvety black, studded with the sharp, brilliant points of a million stars. There is no light pollution here, no orange glow from a distant city to wash out the celestial display. The heavens are a map, a story, another kind of river flowing over you. You rise from your stone seat by the Nile and make your way through the cooling air toward a simple mud brick dwelling. Inside, a single flame from a small oil lamp casts flickering, dancing shadows on the walls, making the familiar space seem alive and mysterious. Your bed is not a plush mattress but perhaps a woven reed mat on the floor, or a low wooden frame strung with linen cords. The pillow is not soft, but a solid, curved headrest made of wood, stone, or ceramic. It seems impossibly uncomfortable to your modern sensibilities, designed to elevate the head, to keep it cool, and perhaps, to keep the more adventurous insects from crawling into your ears while you sleep. A practical solution, but not exactly five-star comfort. As you lie down and rest your head in the cool, smooth cradle of the headrest, you close your eyes. The gentle sounds of the night, the chirping of crickets, the distant hoot of an owl, the soft rustle of wind in the thatch of the roof, begin to fade into a low, steady hum. This is the moment of transition. For the ancient Egyptians, this wasn't simply about the body shutting down for maintenance. It was the moment your very being deconstructed, separating into its essential parts for a crucial nightly journey. Your understanding of you is a single, unified consciousness. Theirs was far more complex, a bit like a team of supernatural components that made up a person. It's more complicated than assembling flat-pack furniture, and frankly, far more interesting. First, there is your cot. This is your physical body, the vessel of flesh and bone lying here on the mat. It is temporary, vulnerable, but sacred. It is the anchor to which all your other parts must return. It needs to remain safe and undisturbed through the night, a silent harbor for a soul at sea. Then there is your Ka, your life force. Think of it as your spiritual twin, an intangible double that is created at the moment of your birth. It's the vital spark, the energy that animates you. Your Ka doesn't go anywhere when you sleep. It stays with or near your cot, a sort of supernatural battery charger, sustaining your physical form while the more adventurous part of your soul goes wandering. People would leave offerings of food and drink for the ka of the deceased, as this life force needed nourishment even after death. It's a concept that beautifully blurs the line between the living and the dead, suggesting life is a continuous stream of energy. And then there is the traveler. This is the part of you that most closely resembles the Western concept of the soul, the seat of your unique personality, your intellect, your character. It's everything that makes you. And the Ba is a free spirit. The Egyptians depicted it as a bird, specifically a jabiru or a falcon, with a human head. Your head, to be precise. As your body sinks deeper into stillness, you can imagine your Ba beginning to stir. It flutters within your chest, a gentle, restless energy eager for release. And then, with a soft, imperceptible whoosh, it emerges. It rises from your inert form, a strange and wonderful creature of spirit, and hovers for a moment in the warm, dark air of the room. It can fly. It can move through solid walls, slip through the smallest crack in the doorway, and ascend into the night sky. This nightly flight of the Ba is the origin of your dreams. Your Ba is now soaring over the darkened landscape. It sees the world you just left, the village sleeping below, the moonlight casting a silver sheen on the surface of the great, dark river. It is untethered, free from the physical limitations of your cot. This journey, however, isn't just a joyride. It is a necessary, and sometimes perilous, expedition into another reality. Egyptologists still debate the precise relationship between the dream world and the duat, the official underworld that the dead had to navigate. Were your dreams a literal journey into the duat itself, a sort of nightly practice run for the main event after death? Or was the dream world a separate, adjacent realm, a kind of borderland where the living could receive echoes and messages from the land of the gods and the dead? Either way, it was considered a very real place. The things your Ba sees, hears, and experiences on its flight become the substance of your dreams. It might encounter gods, who could offer guidance, warnings, or blessings. It might be met by the spirits of deceased relatives, offering comfort or cryptic advice from the other side. But the duat is also teeming with dangers. Demons, malevolent spirits, and terrifying hybrid creatures could accost your wandering Ba, leading to nightmares that were not just frightening, but were considered terrible omens. Your little soul bird had to be savvy, navigating a landscape of shifting symbols and powerful entities. This is why the content of dreams was taken so seriously. It wasn't just your subconscious chewing on the day's events. It was a field report from your soul on the front lines of a spiritual reality. And here lies a quiet, background anxiety you would carry with you each night. The Ba must, without fail, return to the cot before the sun rises. The reunion of body and soul was what allowed you to wake up in the morning. What if your Ba got lost? What if it was trapped by a demon, or simply forgot its way back? There was no GPS for the ancient Egyptian soul. The thought of your body lying on its mat, inert, while your consciousness was lost forever in the twilight realm of the duat would have been a terrifying possibility. This makes the simple act of waking up each morning a small, daily miracle. It is a successful reunion, a confirmation that your essential parts are back in alignment, ready to face another day in the Black Land. The solid, uncomfortable headrest makes a little more sense now, doesn't it? It's not just a pillow. It's a beacon, an anchor for your head, the seat of identity, a landmark for your returning Ba. And as you drift deeper now, you can feel that separation beginning, that gentle loosening of your own spirit, as your personal, human-headed bird prepares for its flight into the gentle, mysterious dark. Your Ba has returned to you. The sun is up, another day has been granted, and the reunion of your spiritual components was, thankfully, successful. But perhaps the dreams your wandering soul brought back were confusing, a jumble of disconnected images. Or worse, maybe you received no clear dream at all, just a vague sense of unease from the night. Sometimes, the nightly flight of the Ba is like a casual stroll through the neighborhood. It sees what it sees, but there's no grand purpose. But what if you have a problem? A persistent sickness that traditional remedies cannot touch. A business venture that could lead to ruin or riches. A question of fertility that weighs heavily on your heart. For these moments, you cannot simply hope your BA stumbles upon the right God in the vastness of the do-it. You need to arrange a formal meeting. You need to take your soul to a specialist. This is when you would decide to undertake a journey to a place of dream incubation. These were sacred sites, temples or parts of temples, where the veil between the human and divine worlds was considered exceptionally thin. Here, you could sleep under the direct supervision of a god, ensuring your dream would be a direct, potent, and meaningful message. Think of it as a combination of a pilgrimage, a hospital stay, and a very serious spiritual retreat. You pack a few necessities and make your way, perhaps for several days, towards a temple renowned for its power. It might be a grand, state-sponsored complex or a smaller, more local sanctuary. Let's imagine you are heading to a place dedicated to Imhotep, the brilliant architect and physician who was deified after his death and became a god of healing and wisdom. A perfect consultant for a troubled soul. As you approach, the temple complex rises from the flat, fertile landscape, a monument of carved stone and towering pylons that disrupts the organic shapes of the world around it. The air itself seems to change as you pass through the main gateway. You leave the dusty, noisy, sun-bleached world of daily life behind and enter a realm of cool shadows, echoing silence, and sacred order. The sheer scale of the columns, carved with images of gods and pharaohs, makes you feel small and humble, which is, of course, entirely the point. The oppressive heat you felt by the river is gone, replaced by the profound, refreshing coolness of massive stone walls that have spent centuries blocking out the sun. The dominant smells are no longer river mud and livestock, but the sharp, clean scent of burning incense, frankincense and myrrh, drifting from braziers tended by priests. You don't just walk in and find a place to lie down. This isn't a celestial drop-in clinic. You must first be made worthy. Your journey begins with a priest who directs you to a sacred lake or a designated ablution chamber for ritual purification. You immerse yourself in the cool, consecrated water, washing away not just the physical grime of your journey, but your spiritual impurities. You leave your dusty traveling clothes behind and are given a simple, fresh garment of pure white linen, the standard uniform for anyone entering the presence of the divine. You must be a blank slate. Next, you are required to make an offering. This could be a simple cake, a jar of wine, or a small carved effigy, depending on your means. It is a sign of respect, a payment for the consultation you are about to receive. For a period, you may be required to live within the temple precinct, following a strict regimen. This is the preparation phase. The priests might impose dietary restrictions: no fish, no beans, foods that were considered unclean or common. You would spend your days in quiet contemplation, prayer, and listening to the hypnotic chants that echo through the temple halls. This entire process is a masterful piece of psychological stage setting. By removing you from your normal environment, altering your diet, and immersing you in a world of repetitive, soothing sounds and powerful religious imagery, they are preparing your mind. They are plowing the field of your consciousness, so the seed of a divine dream can be planted more effectively. It's a way of ensuring your BA, when it leaves your body tonight, isn't distracted. It's been given a flight plan and a very specific destination. Finally, as evening falls, you are led to the sacred place of sleeping. Archaeologists and historians still debate whether these dream temples were standalone structures or simply designated sacred areas within larger temple complexes, perhaps known as a sanatorium or an abaton. The exact layout isn't always clear. You might be led to a long, quiet hall with other supplicants, each finding their own space on the cool stone floor. Or perhaps you are taken to a small, secluded cell, a private chamber for your divine encounter. There are no cozy amenities here. No one is coming to fluff your solid stone pillow or offer you a warm drink. The luxury is not in the comfort, but in the location. You are sleeping in the house of a god. The air is thick with holiness, heavy with the expectations of all the desperate and hopeful people who have laid here before you. You lie down on your mat, the white linen cool against your skin. The last of the light from the oil lamps is extinguished by a priest, plunging the chamber into a profound darkness. The silence that follows is deeper than any you have experienced before. It's a weighted silence, filled with unseen power. Your heart beats a little faster. You are both nervous and filled with a profound sense of hope. You focus your thoughts on your problem, the reason you came all this way. You repeat a prayer to the God, a formal invitation for them to enter your slumber. You are not just going to sleep, you are initiating a sacred communion. You are asking for your BA to be personally escorted to the divine presence, to have its questions answered, and most importantly, to remember the answers clearly upon its return. You close your eyes, take a slow breath of the incense-laden air, and surrender to the waiting dark, knowing that the dream you have tonight will be different. It will be a prescription, a prophecy, a direct message from the other side, delivered right to your sleeping mind. A sliver of dawn light pierces the deep darkness of the sleeping chamber, falling across the stone floor. You stir, not with the slow, groggy reluctance of a normal morning, but with a jolt of clarity. The dream. It's still there, vivid and shimmering in your mind, a complete narrative, unlike the usual fractured nonsense your BA brings back from its nightly wanderings. In the controlled, sacred environment of the temple, your soul's journey was direct and purposeful. You can still hear the voice of the God, feel the strange textures of the symbolic landscape you walked through. But its meaning is veiled, shrouded in the peculiar logic of the divine. It feels immensely important, but utterly incomprehensible, like being given a treasure map written in a language you don't speak. You sit up, your heart pounding with a mixture of awe and anxiety. You have the message. Now you need a translator. Before the memory can begin to fray at the edges and dissolve like mist, a temple attendant appears, his bare feet making no sound on the cool stone. He leads you from the abaton, the sacred sleeping place, back into the waking life of the temple complex. The sun is higher now, and the priests are already at their duties, their clean white linen garments looking impossibly bright against the sandstone walls. You are not taken back to the entrance to be sent on your way. Your pilgrimage is not yet complete. The most crucial part is about to begin. You are guided into a different part of the temple, perhaps a library or a room known as the House of Life, the institution where sacred knowledge was studied, copied, and stored. This is the intellectual heart of the temple, and it is here that the dream keepers practice their craft. You are brought before a man, a priest who radiates a quiet, scholarly authority. He might be a Wab priest, one concerned with purity, or more likely a lector priest, a Hertep, which translates to something like a master of things. His head is shaved, a sign of his purity, and his gaze is calm and penetrating. He is part doctor, part psychologist, and part codebreaker for the gods. He gestures for you to sit, and you recount your dream to him. You tell him everything, holding nothing back. The bizarre creature that spoke to you, the field of blue barley you walked through, the feeling of losing your teeth, every single detail is a potential clue, a vital piece of the puzzle. The priest listens with intense, unwavering focus. He doesn't interrupt. He is not just hearing your story, he is gathering divine data, assessing the spiritual symptoms you present to him. Beside the lector priest, sitting cross-legged with a wooden board on his lap, is another figure. The scribe. Scholars continue to discuss the precise division of labor between the priest who heard the dream and the scribe who wrote it down. Was the priest the sole interpreter, merely dictating his findings to a clerk? Or was the scribe a learned colleague, a silent partner in the act of deciphering the divine message? Often, the most learned priests were, by necessity, also master scribes. For our journey, let's imagine them as a team, a two-man unit specializing in divine communication. The scribe is your dream's first point of contact with immortality. He is here to transform your fleeting, internal vision into a permanent, physical record. You watch as the scribe prepares his tools. He has a rectangular palette of wood or ivory, with a slot down the middle to hold his brushes. These brushes aren't made of animal hair, but are fashioned from the stems of rushes, the ends chewed carefully to separate the fibers into a fine point. At the top of the palette are two shallow wells, holding small, solid cakes of ink. One is a deep, pragmatic black, made from carbon soot mixed with a binder like gum arabic. This is for the main body of the text. The other is a vibrant, important red, made from ground ochre. Red was used for headings, for marking the start of a new section, and, crucially, for noting things of a dangerous or negative nature. There is no delete key for a papyrus scroll. Every mark is deliberate and meaningful. With a small pot of water, he dips a brush and wets the ink cake, loading the tip with color. The physical act of writing, of making these sacred symbols appear, was itself considered a form of magic, of making order out of the unformed void. As you speak, the priest might pause you, asking a clarifying question, before turning to the scribe to dictate a phrase. The scribe's hand moves with practiced elegance across a fresh sheet of pale, cream-colored papyrus. He isn't using the elaborate, pictorial hieroglyphs you might see carved on a monument. He is writing in hieratic, the faster, cursive script used for everyday religious and administrative documents. The strange tale that spooled out in the darkness of your mind now spools out in a neat line of ink. The process is hypnotic to watch. Your personal, subjective, chaotic dream is being captured, ordered, and tamed. It is becoming an artifact, something that can be studied, filed, and compared to other texts. The ephemeral is being made eternal. Once your account is fully recorded, the true work of interpretation begins. The lector priest might now unroll a different scroll, a reference text, an ancient dream book compiled over centuries. This is his database. He is not just giving you his personal opinion or a vague spiritual platitude. He is engaging in a scholarly act of textual analysis. He scans the document you have just created together, breaking your dream down into its core components, its key symbols. The blue barley, the toothless mouth, the talking beast. Each element is isolated and then cross-referenced with the established meanings laid out in his Book of Omens. He is looking for precedents, for established patterns. This methodical process would have been deeply reassuring. Your strange, personal anxieties were not unique. They were part of a known system, a cosmic language that could be translated by a trained professional. It was all just a matter of having the right key to unlock the code. And this calm, shaven-headed man held that key. After a period of silent study and perhaps a quiet, murmured consultation with the scribe, the lector priest looks up, his face impassive. He is ready to deliver the verdict. The lector priest leans forward slightly, the smooth, shaven skin of his head gleaming in the soft light of the temple library. He doesn't immediately tell you if your dream of the blue barley and the toothless mouth was a good or a bad omen. The interpretation is not a simple thumbs up or thumbs down from the universe. First, you must understand the cast of characters. A dream was an interaction, a meeting in the liminal space between worlds, and the nature of that meeting depended entirely on who you met there. The priest begins his explanation by identifying the divine forces that may have been at play, the patrons and protectors of the vulnerable, sleeping soul. He is introducing you to the unseen guardians and potential troublemakers of the night. He might start with the most common and beloved of these guardians, a deity whose image was found not on towering temple pylons, but on the humble objects of daily life: beds, headrests, cosmetic pots, and protective amulets. This is the god Bes. As the priest describes him, you have to adjust your expectations. Bes is not a tall, stately, handsome god. In fact, he's quite the opposite, and that is precisely his strength. He is a grotesque, bandy-legged dwarf with a lion's ears and mane, often depicted naked, brandishing a tambourine or a knife, and sticking his tongue out in a fearsome grimace. He is, to put it mildly, not a candidate for the cover of Gods Illustrated. But his purpose wasn't to be beautiful, it was to be terrifying to anything evil that might approach you. The ancient Egyptians believed his sheer, aggressive ugliness would frighten away malevolent spirits, snakes, and all manner of nocturnal threats. He was the divine bouncer at the door of your sleeping mind, and his frightening appearance was a comfort, a sign that you were well protected. He was the god of joy, music, and dance, but also a fierce warrior who watched over the family home, especially during times of vulnerability like childbirth and sleep. Often partnered with Bes was an equally formidable, if not more intimidating goddess, Ta'aret, whose name means the great female. The priest describes her form, and you realize the Egyptians had a brilliant strategy for creating protectors. They combined the most dangerous things they knew into a single, powerhouse being. Taweret has the head and gaping jaws of a hippopotamus, the most dangerous animal on the Nile. She has the powerful legs and claws of a lion. Her back and tail are that of a Nile crocodile. And to top it all off, she has the heavily pregnant belly of a human woman and pendulous breasts. She is a terrifying hybrid, a divine monster of the first order. But like Bes, she was a fierce, benevolent protector. She was the patron goddess of fertility, childbirth, and the nursing mother. Her image, holding the SA symbol for protection, was a shield for the family. If Taweret appeared in your dream, it was a potent sign. She was the ultimate bodyguard, a being of immense power showing a personal interest in your well-being. The priest might pause here to explain a subtle but important point, one that Egyptologists often debate. He might tell you that these household gods, Bes and Taweret, were the faces of divinity that the common person would most often interact with, especially in their dreams. While the great state gods like Ammonius-Ra or Horus were worshipped in grand ceremonies, they could seem remote, concerned with the fate of the nation and the king. Bes and Taweret were personal, accessible, almost like family members. They were the ones you turned to for the intimate anxieties of life. A sick child, a difficult pregnancy, or a frightening nightmare. Scholars still discuss whether these figures were seen as entirely separate, lesser gods, or if they were understood as more down-to-earth, approachable manifestations of the great, abstract powers of the cosmos. Either way, their presence in a dream made the message deeply personal. Of course, other, grander deities could grace your Ba's journey. The priest might suggest that the goddess Hathor was involved. She was a complex and powerful figure, the goddess of love, beauty, music, and joy. She was often depicted as a beautiful woman with the horns of a cow holding a sun disk, or simply as a cow herself. An appearance from Hathor in a dream would be a wonderful sign, promising joy, pleasure, or the resolution of a romantic trouble. However, Hathor had a famously dual nature. If a stern warning was needed, she could manifest as her alter ego, the lion-headed goddess Sekhmet, a bringer of plague and destruction. Seeing Sekhmet in your dream would be like receiving a formal warning from the universe to change your ways, immediately. No subtlety there. Then there is the god who would be the patron of the very men you are speaking with now. Thoth, the ibis-headed god of the moon, of wisdom, of magic, and most importantly, of writing and knowledge. Thoth was the scribe of the gods, the one who recorded everything, the keeper of the sacred library of the heavens. If Thoth appeared in your dream, it was a sign of the highest order. It suggested the dream was not just a symbolic story, but a direct piece of text, a celestial document delivered to your Ba. It meant the message was one of great clarity and importance, and that it must be deciphered with the utmost care, just as the scribe beside you is carefully transcribing your own words. An encounter with Thoth was an encounter with pure information, a direct download from the divine archives. The lector priest now brings the lesson back to you, sitting there on the floor of the House of Life. Based on the specific symbols you described, he might identify one of these beings as the primary communicator in your dream. The creature that spoke to you, he might say in his low, calm voice, that was Bes reassuring you. His presence means the forces of chaos are being held at bay. Or, the feeling of profound safety you had by the water's edge, that was the aura of Taweret watching over you. By identifying the divine messenger, he has given your strange, ethereal dream a source. He has anchored it in the known world of theology. Your dream is no longer a random psychic event. It was a targeted communication from a specific, powerful entity. And now that you know who was speaking, the next step is to understand the language they were using. Now that the divine messenger in your dream has been identified, the lector priest turns from theology to literature. He has established the who, now he must consult the authoritative text to determine the what. He signals to the scribe, who carefully retrieves a long, rolled object from a wooden chest or a ceramic jar in the corner of the room. It is a papyrus scroll, bound with a simple linen tie. This is the source code, the reference manual for the soul. The priest takes it, places it on a small, clean table, and with practiced, gentle fingers, he begins to unroll it. The sound is a soft, dry rustle, the voice of ancient paper whispering in the quiet of the house of life. This is a dream book, a compendium of visions and their meanings, compiled by generations of scribes and interpreters. The most famous surviving example of such a text, one that gives us the clearest window into this practice, is a document we now call the Papyrus Chester Beatty No. 3. The scroll the priest is unrolling before you is much like it. It's a venerable object, written centuries ago during the time of the great New Kingdom pharaohs. As he unrolls it, you can see the scribe's work. The text is laid out in neat, vertical columns of elegant, flowing hieratic script. It reads from right to left. The sheer orderliness of it is deeply calming. Your chaotic, personal, and frankly weird dream is about to be measured against this ancient, structured, and authoritative document. Scribes and scholars still debate whether these dream books were seen as infallible, divinely inspired texts, or more like practical handbooks, a physician's reference guide that a skilled interpreter could use with their own professional discretion. Either way, in this room, its authority feels absolute. It's the final word on the matter. The priest explains the structure of the book to you. It is a simple, powerful, and repetitive list. It is not a book of stories, but a database of possibilities. Each entry begins with the same formula. If a man sees himself in a dream, this is followed by a specific dream scenario. If a man sees himself in a dream looking out of a window, if a man sees himself in a dream drinking wine, if a man sees himself in a dream eating the flesh of a donkey, the list is extensive, covering a vast range of human experiences, from the profound to the deeply mundane. Immediately following the description of the dream, there is a one-word verdict, written clearly and without ambiguity. Sometimes this verdict is even written in that special, attention-grabbing red ink. The verdict is always one of two things, good or bad. There is no middle ground, no, sort of okay, or could be worse. The Egyptian worldview, as reflected in this text, was starkly binary. An event was either auspicious or it was not. It was a sign of order, ma'at, prevailing, or a sign of chaos, isfit, encroaching. Finally, after the verdict, comes the interpretation, which also follows a set formula. This means that X will happen. The logic is direct, causal, and presented as a simple statement of fact. This rigid structure, condition, verdict, meaning, is repeated over and over again, column after column. The lulling rhythm of it is a powerful form of reassurance. Your experience fits into a known and predictable system. The priest might offhandedly mention something that strikes you as wonderfully strange. He might flip the papyrus over for a moment to check something. And on the back, you see more columns of neat hieratic script, but the priest explains that this is a different text altogether. The verso of this great dream book, this mystical guide to the soul's journey, contains a detailed medical treatise on the diagnosis and treatment of diseases of the anus. It's a truly magnificent detail. One side of the page deals with messages from the gods and the landscape of the soul. The other side deals with practical proctology. It's the ancient Egyptian worldview in a nutshell. There was no clear dividing line between magic, religion, and practical medicine. An incantation to ward off a demon was just as valid a treatment as a poultice for a wound. It's the ultimate two-for-one document, a business in the front, party in the back kind of scroll that sees no contradiction in caring for the highest aspirations of the spirit and the lowliest complaints of the body on the same sheet of paper. Now, the priest begins the search. His long, slender finger hovers over the columns of text, scanning the ancient script. The scribe watches alongside him, ready to offer a second opinion or to help locate the relevant passage. They are looking for the key symbols from your dream. They are searching for seeing oneself in a field of barley, for losing one's teeth, or perhaps a more abstract concept that matches the feeling of your dream. It's like watching someone use an ancient, organic search engine. The priest is entering the keywords of your soul's journey and waiting for the database to provide a result. He murmurs softly as he reads, his voice a low hum. If a man sees himself dead, good. It means a long life will be granted to him. This is a key principle of interpretation you begin to notice, the logic of opposites. A terrible dream could foretell a wonderful outcome. A happy dream could be a warning of sorrow. You could never take a dream at face value. It was always a code. Dreaming of drinking warm, unpleasant beer? But it means you will suffer. Dreaming of seeing your own face in a mirror? But it means you will take another wife, which, apparently, was considered a negative outcome in this context. The priest's finger stops. He taps the papyrus gently. Ah, he says, a soft exhalation of discovery. He has found a relevant entry. He has located your experience within the ancient text. He has found the line of code that explains the glitch in your reality. The rune feels still and silent as he prepares to read the verdict, to translate the message your BA brought back from its journey, filtered through the wisdom of this incredible ancient book. The lector priest holds his finger on the line of hieratic script, anchoring the ancient wisdom to the present moment. The entire process, your pilgrimage, the purification rituals, the focused sleep in the Abaton, has led to this single point. He looks at you, his expression unreadable but his voice low and steady as he begins to translate the divine code from your dream. He doesn't just read the line, he unpacks it for you, creating a dictionary of the soul, explaining how the language of the gods operates. It's a language built on association, metaphor, and most surprisingly, on puns. He starts by explaining that many interpretations hinge on a principle of wordplay, what modern linguists call paronomasia. The gods, it seems, have a rather quirky sense of humor and enjoy a good pun as much as anyone. The priest gives you a classic example. If a man sees himself in a dream eating the flesh of a donkey, he says, his tone perfectly serious, it is good. It means he will receive a promotion and become great. You might blink at this, wondering what could possibly be great about eating a donkey. The priest explains. The Egyptian word for donkey, sounds exactly the same as the word for great or noble, they. The dream isn't about the act of eating the animal at all. It's a sonic clue, a homophone sent by the divine world to your sleeping BA. The image is just the packaging for the sound. It's a divine dad joke with very real consequences for your career. With this strange logic in mind, the priest begins to tick off other common symbols, revealing a world of hidden meanings. If you dream of receiving pure white bread, he continues, that is good. It means you will have something good to eat, a sign of comfort and prosperity. This one is more straightforward, a direct association. Bread was the staff of life, so good bread meant a good life. If you dream of drinking fresh milk, that is also good. It signifies that you will find a respected position in your community. Again, the logic is gentle and associative. Milk is nurturing, foundational, suggesting a role that nurtures the town itself. Seeing the moon shining in the sky was a blessing from Thoth, the god of wisdom. Seeing a large, placid cat meant you could expect a large and successful harvest, likely because cats protected the grain stores from mice and rats. It was all a web of interconnected ideas, where a simple image could ripple outwards with meaning. Then he moves to the negative omens, the signs that chaos was whispering at the edges of your life. If you dream of seeing your own face in a mirror, that is bad, he states, and you can imagine the scribe beside him making a small, neat mark in red ink on his notes. It means you will take a new wife. In a world where a second wife might mean more domestic strife or a division of scant resources, this was apparently filed under problems. If you dream of plunging into the river, he adds, it is bad. It means you will be cleansed of all your possessions. A clever turn of phrase for going completely bankrupt. Drinking warm, flat beer, a truly unpleasant experience, was a sure sign that a period of suffering was on its way. The logic here is sensory. A bad taste in the dream world foretells a bad taste in the real world. Some symbols, he explains, are more complex and depend entirely on context. A snake, for instance. Seeing a snake could be terrifying. It might represent Apep, the great serpent of chaos who tried to swallow the sun god's boat every single night. To dream of being attacked by such a snake would be a terrible omen. However, if the snake was a rearing cobra, the uraeus that you see on the pharaoh's crown, then it was a symbol of divine royalty, of protection and legitimacy. The same creature could be a demon or a guardian angel. It all depended on the details, which is why a professional interpreter like him was so essential. You couldn't just use a simple dream dictionary, you needed someone who could read the subtle grammar of the gods. Modern psychoanalysts and Egyptologists alike still ponder whether these symbols had a universal, archetypal meaning rooted in a deep human consciousness, or if their significance was purely based on these cultural and linguistic puns. Was the fear of a sinking boat a primal fear of loss of control, or was it just a straightforward metaphor for a failing enterprise? Perhaps the answer, like the back of the dream papyrus, is both. The Egyptians were masters of weaving the practical and the magical together so tightly that they became a single fabric. Now, the priest returns to your specific vision. Let's imagine your dream was of that field of vibrant blue barley. He might tell you, barley is a sign of sustenance and wealth, and the color blue is the color of the divine and the heavens. To see a field of it is good. It means the gods are providing for you, and a period of great abundance is coming. Then he addresses the other part of your dream, the unsettling image of your teeth falling out. He scans the papyrus again. If a man sees his teeth fall out in his dream, he reads, "It is bad." It means one of his relatives is going to die. It's a stark, chilling prophecy. But then he holds up a hand, and this is where his skill comes in. He points to the other symbols in your dream, the protective presence of Bes you felt, the abundant blue barley. He weighs the evidence. The omen is there, he might say, but the guardians of the night were also present, and the field of life was strong. The final interpretation is a synthesis. It's not just a list of decoded words, but a full, nuanced sentence. He is not a machine, he is a diagnostician, and his job is to give you a complete picture of your spiritual health. The words of the lector priest settle in the quiet room, the good omens and the bad lying side by side in your mind. The predicted abundance from the field of blue barley feels warm and reassuring, but the chilling prophecy of a relative's death, foretold by your dream of a toothless mouth, sends a cold thread of fear through you. You begin to grasp the stark, uncompromising nature of this ancient practice. There is no room for ambiguity, no space for a maybe. Every sign points to one of two cosmic poles, good or bad. It's a system of absolute certainty, which is both comforting in its clarity and terrifying in its implications. As if sensing your thoughts, the priest leans back and begins to explain the grand philosophy behind this binary system. It's not just a feature of dream interpretation, he explains, it is the fundamental operating system of the entire universe. He tells you about Ma'at. This is a concept so central to the Egyptian mind that it guided everything from a pharaoh's foreign policy to a farmer's daily chores. Ma'at is personified as a goddess, a serene woman with a single, perfect ostrich feather in her hair. But she is more than a deity, she is the principle of cosmic order itself. Ma'at is truth, justice, balance, harmony, and the correct, established way of things. It is the sun rising in the east and setting in the west without fail. It is the reliable, life-giving flood of the Nile that you remember from the riverbank. It is a society where everyone, from the king to the craftsman, performs their role correctly, keeping the great machine of civilization running smoothly. Ma'at is the universe in perfect, divine equilibrium. When something is in accordance with Ma'at, it is right, true, and good. The opposite of Ma'at, he explains, is Isfet. Isfet is chaos. It is injustice, violence, falsehood, and decay. It is the screech of a demon in the night. It is the unpredictable flash flood, the failed harvest, the scorpion in the sandal. Isfet is the relentless, encroaching power of the Red Land, the sterile desert that forever threatens to swallow the fertile Black Land. It is the natural tendency of things to fall apart, to break down, to become disordered. Historians and theologians still debate whether the Egyptians saw Isfet as an active, malevolent force, an evil entity consciously trying to destroy the world, or if they saw it simply as the default state of the universe, the cosmic rust that order must constantly be polished away from. Either way, the duty of every human being was to be an agent of Ma'at, to live their life in a way that pushed back against the tide of Isfet. Now you understand. The Dream Book, with its stark verdicts, is a diagnostic tool for the soul. A good dream is a bulletin from the divine realm confirming that your life, at this moment, is aligned with Ma'at. Your actions are in harmony with the cosmic order. You are balanced, stable, and on the correct path. It's a spiritual clean bill of health. A bad dream, however, is a symptom. It's a warning light. It means that somewhere in your life, a crack has appeared in the foundations, and Isfit is beginning to seep through. The dream itself is not the problem. The problem is the underlying spiritual imbalance that the dream is revealing. It's an early warning system, a merciful glimpse into a potential future of chaos that you now have the opportunity to prevent. The priest adds another layer to this, a mythological framework that makes the stakes even clearer. He tells you that some versions of the dream books actually categorize the dreams based on the followers of two great rival gods. The good dreams are those of the followers of Horus. Horus, the falcon-headed son of Osiris, was the god who heroically fought against his chaotic uncle, Seth, to avenge his father and restore order to Egypt. To have a good dream meant you were on Team Horus, a soldier for Ma'at. The bad dreams, conversely, are listed as those of the followers of Seth. Seth was the god of the desert, of storms, and of chaos, the one who brought murder and Isfit into the perfect world. To have a bad dream meant you were, even unconsciously, aligning yourself with the forces of the cosmic villain. Imagine being told that your dream about warm beer meant you were fraternizing with the enemy. It adds a certain weight to your subconscious adventures. This is why there is no middle ground, no fairly good, or kinda bad, in the dream book. In the cosmic struggle between Ma'at and Isfit, there is no neutral territory. You are either actively maintaining order, or you are passively allowing chaos to advance. Every action, every thought, and every dream falls on one side of the ledger or the other. It's a worldview with no shades of gray, which might seem simplistic to a modern mind, but it offered a profound sense of purpose and moral clarity to the ancient Egyptians. Your life had cosmic significance. Your choices mattered. Your dreams were dispatches from the front line. The priest brings this grand, cosmic theory back to your personal reading. The vibrant field of blue barley is a powerful sign that Ma'at is the dominant force in your life. The foundation is strong. Your heart is in general true. The gods of order look upon you with favor. But the dream of the lost tooth is the symptom, the warning from the Isfit that is trying to find a way in, manifesting as a threat to your family. The dream is not a punishment. It is not a sealed fate. It is a gift of knowledge. It has shown you exactly where the enemy is probing your defenses. You have been given a precious opportunity. You have been warned. And in ancient Egypt, a warning from the gods was always coupled with a set of instructions on what to do next. You don't just passively accept the bad omen, you actively fight back. You have received the diagnosis. The cosmic balance sheet of your soul has been audited. The good news is that the account is fundamentally sound, firmly rooted in the order of Ma'at. The bad news is that a single, dangerous entry has been made on the side of Isfit, a prophecy of loss that now hangs in the air like a cold fog. But the lector priest does not send you away with this heavy burden. In the Egyptian worldview, a diagnosis is always followed by a prescription. You are not expected to be a passive victim of fate. The gods have not sent you a warning to watch you suffer, they have sent it so you can act. You have been given the precious gift of foresight, and now you will be given the tools to fight back. The priest explains that Isfit thrives on inaction. Chaos grows in the dark, in the quiet places of fear and anxiety. The most powerful way to combat it is to bring it into the light, to confront it with ritual, voice, and action. You are about to perform a small but potent act of magic, a piece of spiritual medicine designed to neutralize the toxic omen and restore harmony to your personal corner of the cosmos. He gestures to the scribe, who begins to prepare the necessary ingredients for your magical cure. It is not a complex potion requiring rare herbs from distant lands. It is made from the most humble, essential elements of Egyptian life, bread and beer. This accessibility was part of the magic's power. Anyone could fight back using the stuff of their own dinner table. The scribe presents you with a piece of fresh, coarse barley bread and a small amount of frothy, recently brewed beer. This is not for you to enjoy as a snack. This is your weapon. Following the priest's instruction, you crumble the bread into your palm and the scribe carefully pours a little of the beer over it, just enough to moisten the crumbs. You work the mixture with your fingers until it forms a soft, doughy wad. It's a slightly sour, lumpy paste, a primitive and sacred kind of medicine. As you hold this offering, the priest begins to recite the incantation you must speak. He says the words slowly, clearly, so you can repeat them after him. His voice is a low, resonant monotone, the sound of ancient authority. "Oh, this dream which I have seen in this night," he begins, and you repeat the words, your own voice trembling slightly. "Let me be sound, let me be healthy." Recitation against the evil that grows from a bad dream. The formula is direct. You are stating your intention, naming the problem. Then the magic intensifies. You are instructed to invoke a powerful, protective deity. "Come to me, my mother Isis," the priest chants. "Behold, I see something far from me, as that which is near to me." This part of the spell is a classic piece of magical jujitsu. You are acknowledging the dream but also confusing its context, blurring the line between what is close and what is far, weakening its connection to you. Now comes the most crucial part of the spell, the formal rejection of the negative vision. You must speak with force, with conviction. "I have seen the falling of my own teeth," you say, giving voice to the omen. "But I have not seen it. I have not heard it. I have not lived it. This is not the fate decreed for me." You are actively denying the reality of the dream, using the power of your own voice to contradict the prophecy. You are overriding the bad code with a new command. You might be instructed to spit on the ground after this declaration, a visceral act of disgust and rejection. The priest affirms your power. This bad dream, it is a follower of Seth, and it will be thwarted. It came from Isfit, and to Isfit it will return, powerless and undone. There is ongoing discussion among scholars about how literally these spells were believed to work. Was it a pure cause and effect relationship, where speaking the correct sequence of words with the correct intent automatically compelled the universe to obey? Or was the effect more psychological, a powerful ritual designed to calm the anxious supplicant, to restore their sense of agency, and to give them the confidence to face the future? Like a placebo, if you believe with all your heart that the medicine will work, it often does. The Egyptian view would likely be that there is no difference between the two. The belief was the magical ingredient. The ritual harnessed and focused that belief into an effective force. The final step is the most intimate. After speaking the last words of the incantation over the doughy wad of bread and beer, you must eat it. You lift the damp, slightly gritty paste to your lips and swallow it. The taste is earthy and sour, not pleasant, but you are not eating food, you are consuming a spell. You are internalizing the magic, taking the cure into the very fabric of your body. The words of rejection you spoke are now physically part of you, working from the inside out to annihilate the seed of the bad omen before it can sprout. It's certainly not a dish you'd find at a temple food festival, but it's the most important meal you'll have all week. This practice was often called turning over a dream. You were not just erasing the bad, but actively flipping it to its opposite side. The priest might prescribe further actions. You might be told to wake before dawn the next day, face the rising sun, and recite another short spell as Ra, the god of light and order, appears to banish the darkness. He might also give you a tangible piece of magic to carry with you, a small, carved amulet of the god Bes to hang around your neck, or an eye of Horus to place beneath your headrest. These objects were not just reminders, they were active magical technology, constantly broadcasting a protective field, jamming any hostile signals sent from the realm of chaos. Having completed the ritual, you feel a profound sense of relief. The weight of the prophecy has lifted. You are not a helpless pawn. You have faced the darkness, spoken the ancient words, and with the help of the gods and their earthly servants, you have bent reality back towards Ma'at. Having guided you through the intricate, personal magic of averting your own bad omen, the lector priest decides it is time for a story. He wants to show you that dreams are not just for managing personal anxieties or predicting the health of a relative. He wants you to understand that dreams have shaped the very course of Egyptian history. A commoner's dream might alter the fate of their family, but a pharaoh's dream could alter the fate of the entire nation. The BA of a king, he explains, does not simply wander, it receives divine directives. To illustrate this, he recounts the most famous dream in all of Egypt's long chronicle, a story of a sleeping prince, a buried god, and a promise that founded a dynasty. Your mind drifts away from the quiet temple library, back through the centuries, to the sun-scorched sands of the Giza Plateau around the year 1400 BC. You see a young man, a prince named Thutmose. He is handsome, athletic, and full of life, but he is not the crown prince. He is a son of the reigning pharaoh, but not the chosen heir. His future is one of comfortable obscurity, not supreme power. You see him on a hunting expedition, driving his chariot across the desert in pursuit of gazelles, the midday sun beating down relentlessly. The heat is immense, and eventually, the prince seeks a moment of shade and rest. He finds it in a peculiar place, beneath the colossal, weather-worn head of a stone statue half buried in the sand. This is the Great Sphinx, but it is not the monument we know today. By Thutmose's time, the Sphinx was already ancient beyond imagining, a relic of a distant, mysterious past. For centuries, the wind had blown the desert sands around it, burying its enormous lion body completely. Only its majestic, enigmatic head and part of its neck were visible, rising from the desert floor like a strange, divine mountain. It was a place of power, a place of mystery, revered as a manifestation of the sun god, but it was a shadow of its former glory, slowly being swallowed by the red land. It's a bit like finding the top of the Statue of Liberty sticking out of a sand dune. You know it's important, but you have no idea what lies beneath. Tired from the hunt, the young prince lies down in the meager shadow cast by the great stone head and falls into a deep sleep. And in that sleep, his BA takes flight, and he dreams. In his vision, the statue before him comes to life. The stone lips, silent for a millennium, part and speak to him. The god within the statue, Horus in the horizon, addresses the sleeping prince directly. The god's voice is like the grinding of stone, ancient and powerful. He complains of his state, of the sand that chokes him, that presses down on his magnificent body. He speaks of his pain, of the discomfort of being buried alive for so long. Then the god makes the prince an offer, a divine contract. "Look at me, my son Thutmose," the god's voice booms in his mind. "It is I who will give you my kingdom on earth. The sand of the desert on which I sit has reached me. Turn your face to me in order to do what I desire. If you do this, I know that you are my son, my protector. The deal is clear. You save me and I'll make you king." The god promises Thutmose that if he clears away the suffocating sand and restores the monument to its proper glory, he will bypass the line of succession and wear the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt. It is a staggering promise, a direct divine intervention in the politics of the royal court. Thutmose awakens with a start, the desert sun on his face, the god's voice still echoing in his soul. The dream is not a confusing jumble of symbols to be decoded. It is a direct, unambiguous command and a prophecy. Of course, Thutmose eventually becomes pharaoh. And as king, he makes good on his side of the bargain. He launches a massive restoration project, the first of its kind. He commands his workers to dig, to excavate the great beast from its sandy tomb. For the first time in centuries, the full form of the Sphinx, the powerful lion's body, the tapering tail, the massive paws, is revealed once more to the Egyptian sun. It is an act of profound piety, a restoration of Ma'at. And to ensure that no one ever forgets his dream or the divine pact that secured his throne, Thutmose IV commissions a massive, 14-foot-high granite slab, which we now call the Dream Stele. He has it placed directly between the newly uncovered paws of the Sphinx. On it, he carves the entire story in beautiful hieroglyphs for all to see: the hunting trip, the nap, the god's complaint, and the divine promise. The priest telling you this story might pause, a slight smile on his lips. Because, as he explains, historians still debate whether Thutmose's dream was a genuine mystical experience or a masterful piece of political propaganda. Was it truly a message from the gods that legitimized his rule? Or was it a brilliantly clever story he concocted after he took power to justify his unlikely ascent to the throne? By claiming the sun god himself chose him over his older brother, he sidestepped any questions about his legitimacy. The dream stele was not just a monument to a god. It was a giant, divinely endorsed political advertisement. It was the ultimate, "the gods told me I should be in charge" argument, carved in granite and placed where no one could miss it. Whatever the truth, it demonstrates the immense power that was ascribed to a royal dream. It was public, it was political, and it could literally move mountains, or at least mountains of sand. The Lector priest's story of Thutmose IV and his nation-forging dream hangs in the air, grand and monumental like the Sphinx itself. But now, he brings his gaze back to you, sitting on the floor of the temple library. He can see the question in your mind. That is a fine story for a king, for a man destined to be a living god, but what about everyone else? What about the millions of people who were not princes, but farmers, soldiers, builders, and bakers? Did the gods bother to whisper prophecies into their humble ears? The priest nods slowly. The gods, he explains, speak to everyone. They simply adjust their vocabulary. A pharaoh dreams of kingdoms and crowns because that is the substance of his life. A farmer dreams of barley and water because that is the substance of his. The anxieties may differ in scale, but the divine diagnostic system is the same for all. To understand the dreams of a common person, you must first understand their life. So, imagine you are no longer a visitor to a temple, but a farmer living in a small village of mud brick houses nestled by a canal. Your world is governed by 3 seasons, dictated not by temperature, but by the Nile, okay? The inundation, when the fields are flooded and you work on state building projects. Parate, the growing season, when the waters have receded and you plow and sow. And Shimu, the harvest season, the time of backbreaking work and, hopefully, abundance. Your life is a constant, intimate dialogue with the river and the earth. Your dreams are born from this dialogue. You don't dream of conquering foreign lands. You dream that the Nile flood is weak, that the water doesn't reach the high fields. You wake with a knot of dread in your stomach. It is a bad omen, a clear sign that Isfet is bringing scarcity. The abstract concept of chaos becomes the very real threat of hunger. Or you might dream of a sky black with locusts, a whirring, clicking carpet of destruction that descends upon your green fields of barley. This isn't a subtle metaphor, it's a direct vision of ruin, a manifestation of cosmic disorder in its most terrifying form. Your most valuable possession is your family's ox, the gentle, powerful beast that pulls your wooden plow. To dream of the ox collapsing and dying is a catastrophe. It's the ancient equivalent of dreaming your car has been stolen and your bank account has been emptied all at once. But the good dreams are just as potent. To dream of heavy heads of grain, so laden they bend the stalks, to dream of a silo filled to the brim, is a beautiful and reassuring sign. It is a message that Ma'at is strong, that your hard work is in harmony with the divine order, and that the gods are smiling on your small patch of the Black Land. Now, imagine you are a craftsman, a stonemason living in the planned village we now call Deir el-Medina. You are part of the elite crew of artisans who construct and decorate the secret royal tombs in the Valley of the Kings. Your life is highly organized, a world of timetables, overseers, and quotas. We know a great deal about your life because you and your colleagues left behind thousands of notes, complaints, and doodles on shards of pottery and limestone called ostraca. Your dreams aren't about the weather, they are about the workplace. You have job-related stress dreams, just like we do. You dream that you are carving a delicate line of hieroglyphs and your trusty bronze chisel snaps in two. This is more than an inconvenience. Every object, especially a tool used for creation, was believed to possess a magical life force, a Heka. The dream of the broken tool is a terrible omen that your skill, your magic, is failing you. You might dream of the overseer, his face like thunder, declaring your work shoddy and docking your wages of bread and beer. A nightmare. Conversely, a dream of him smiling and praising your work would have you waking with a profound sense of relief and pride. Archaeologists still debate the level of individual literacy in communities like this, but it's clear that even for those who couldn't read the great dream books themselves, the core meanings of symbols would have been widely known. This knowledge wouldn't have come from a formal education, but through a lifetime of oral tradition, stories told by elders, interpretations offered by a village wise woman, or advice from a local priest. The knowledge was in the very air you breathed. Let's imagine you are a woman of the village, a wife and mother. Your domain is the home, the center of the family's universe. Your anxieties and hopes manifest in dreams that are intensely personal and domestic. You dream of the great hippopotamus goddess, Taaret, standing solid and fierce in the corner of your sleeping room. You wake not with fear, but with overwhelming joy. It is a good omen of the highest order, a promise of protection for your children, or a sign of a safe and successful childbirth to come. You dream that the bread you are baking refuses to rise, that the dough remains a flat, lifeless lump. It is a sign of Isfet invading your household, a failure of the fundamental magic of turning grain into life. You dream of a child falling into a fever, and you wake in a cold sweat, immediately seeking out a magical spell or an amulet to protect them. Your dreams are the spiritual pulse of the family, the nightly check-in on the health and harmony of your home. Whether you were a farmer fearing a drought, a mason fearing a cracked stone, or a mother fearing a sickness, the process was the same. The dream was a message. A good dream was a confirmation to continue on your path. A bad dream was a call to action. You wouldn't simply fret. You would perform the rituals we've discussed, perhaps saying a prayer over your morning beer, whispering a charm as you lit the oven, or touching a small, smooth amulet of best that you kept by your sleeping mat. You would fight the chaos with the small, everyday magic available to you. The scale was smaller than the pharaoh's grand prophecies, the stakes more personal, but the belief was just as strong. The cosmos was not a silent, unfeeling machine. It was a conscious, communicating entity, and it spoke to everyone from the palace to the humble mud brick house, in the language of dreams. Your journey into the ancient Egyptian mind has shown you how dreams could be personal omens or grand political prophecies, messages to be decoded and, if necessary, magically disarmed. Now, you're about to explore the final, practical application of this knowledge, the point where the world of dream interpretation fully merges with the physical realities of the body. Imagine you have a sickness, a persistent ailment that drains your strength. You've come to a SW&W, the Egyptian word for a physician. This physician might be the very same lector priest you consulted about your dreams, for in this world, medicine, magic, and sacred texts are all part of the same job description. His clinic is not a sterile white room, but a chamber in the house of life, filled with the dry, sweet scent of herbs and old papyrus. You describe your symptoms, the fever, the ache in your bones, the weariness. The SW&W listens patiently, but his first questions might surprise you. He doesn't just ask about your diet or your daily work. He asks, "What have you been dreaming? Have you offended anyone, living or dead? Have you neglected your offerings to your ancestral spirits?" To him, your physical symptoms are the end of a long chain of events, not the beginning. The root cause of your illness, he explains, is almost certainly an intrusion of Isfet, of chaos, into the sanctuary of your body. This chaos might take the form of a demon's touch, the wrath of a minor god you've unknowingly angered, or the malevolent influence of a restless ghost. Your fever is not just a fever, it is a spiritual fire. Therefore, a purely physical treatment is doomed to fail. To heal the body, you must first diagnose and treat the soul. The physician unrolls a papyrus scroll. It is a medical text, perhaps one like the famous Ebers Papyrus, one of the oldest and most extensive medical documents in the world. Much like the Dream Book, it contains a long list of ailments and their corresponding treatments. As he scans the columns of familiar hieratic script, you see something remarkable. Each entry is a fusion of worlds. A prescription might read, "For an ailment of the belly, ground carob pods, milk, and honey, to be eaten. While preparing, recite this spell 4 times. O spirit that sneaks into my belly, I banish you. By the power of our, I command you to depart." There is no separation. The physical remedy and the magical incantation are presented as a single, indivisible treatment protocol. It would be as unthinkable to leave out the spell as it would be to leave out the honey. This is where you encounter the stranger side of the Egyptian pharmacy. While some of their remedies make perfect sense to us now, honey is a natural antiseptic, willow bark contains salicin, the basis of aspirin. Many other ingredients were chosen for purely magical reasons. The physician might prepare a poultice for you that contains, alongside some perfectly sensible herbs, a pinch of powdered crocodile dung. You try not to make a face. The logic, he would explain, is simple. The crocodile is a creature of immense power and ferocity. A sickness demon, which is a weak and cowardly thing, would surely flee in terror from the potent essence of such a mighty beast. Or he might prescribe a salve containing mouse fat, not because of its chemical properties, but because mice are nimble and can slip through tiny cracks, a magical ability you now want to impart to your own healing body. You just have to trust the professionals on this one, even if the prescription smells a bit questionable. Egyptologists and medical historians continue to debate the efficacy of these magical medical treatments. Which part did the Egyptians believe was doing the heavy lifting? Was the spell the primary active ingredient, with the herbal concoction acting as a physical vehicle to deliver the magic into the body? Or was the practical remedy the true source of healing, with the incantation acting as a powerful placebo, focusing the patient's will to live and calming their mind, which in turn helped the body heal itself? The truth is, the SW&W would not even understand the distinction. To him, they are the same thing. The spell makes the medicine work, and the medicine gives the spell a place to anchor itself in the physical world. They are two hands washing each other. Your dreams are the physician's most valuable diagnostic tool. They are the X-ray of your soul. If you tell him you have been having nightmares about being smothered, he knows that a malevolent spirit is attacking your breath. He can then choose a spell specifically designed to protect the lungs. If you dreamed of an angry, lion-headed goddess, he knows you have likely offended Sekhmet, and the prescription must include an appeasement ritual to her alongside any physical remedies. The dream reveals the identity of the supernatural attacker, allowing the SW&W to choose the correct magical weapon to fight back. Without the dream, he would be working in the dark, trying random cures. With the dream, he can perform targeted spiritual surgery. So you leave the temple not with a simple bottle of pills, but with a holistic healing plan. You have a small pot containing a strange-smelling salve to be applied to your chest. You have a slip of papyrus with a short, powerful incantation to be recited every evening as the sun sets. And you have dietary instructions, perhaps to avoid a certain type of fish that is sacred to the god you may have offended. You are being treated as a whole person, a being of body, mind, and spirit. Your illness is being attacked from every possible angle: the physical, the magical, and the psychological. As you walk home, you feel a sense of empowerment. Your ailment is not a random mechanical failure. It is a meaningful battle, and the wise SW&W has just armed you for it, using the secret whispers of your own dreams as his guide. You return to your mud brick home as twilight once again softens the edges of the world. Your consultation with the SW&W has armed you with incantations and a peculiar-smelling poultice, but the fight against Isfet wasn't just waged with words and potions. The ancient Egyptians were masters of belief, but they were also master craftspeople. They understood the comfort and power of a physical object, something you could touch and hold. Your home, and especially your bedroom, was not just a shelter from the elements. It was a fortress, fortified with a network of magical technology designed to protect you during the most vulnerable hours of the night. You are about to surround yourself with the tangible hardware of the Egyptian spiritual security system. Your bed itself might be the first layer of this defense. While many slept on simple reed mats, a person of some means might have a low wooden bed frame. And this frame would not be plain. Carved into its legs or headboard might be the figures of protective deities. The footboard, for instance, was a popular place to carve images of the dwarf god Bes, often in duplicate. He would stand there, a grotesque and powerful little guardian, facing outwards from the bed, his terrifying grimace serving as the first line of defense against any malevolent spirit attempting to crawl up from the foot of the bed while you slept. It's a bit like having a divinely inspired gargoyle guarding your toes. Then you turn to your pillow, the solid, crescent-shaped headrest. We've touched on this seemingly uncomfortable object before, but now you see it not just as a neck support, but as a key piece of magical equipment. Yours might be made of smooth, cool sycamore wood or perhaps a heavy, reassuring piece of limestone. Carved into its base could be another image of Bes, or perhaps the Djed pillar, the symbol of the backbone of the god Osiris, which radiated an aura of stability and endurance. Egyptologists debate the exact function of these decorated headrests. Were the figures just pious decoration, a comforting image to look at before sleep? Or were they believed to be magically activated when you placed your head, the very seat of your consciousness and identity, upon them? Perhaps your sleeping mind powered the object, turning the carved image into an active guardian, a spiritual bouncer standing at the very gate of your dreams, deciding who gets in and who gets thrown out. Before you lie down, you check your personal amulets. These are not just jewelry, they are wearable technology, each one a focused broadcast of a specific magical property. You might wear a string of them around your neck or wrist, or simply place them on the sleeping mat beside you. There is the Ankh, the looped cross that is the very symbol for life. To hold it is to reinforce your own vitality. There is the Djed pillar again, a constant source of stability, ensuring your soul does not lose its foundation. And most powerful of all, there is the Udjet eye, the Eye of Horus. You hold this small faience amulet, its blue-green glaze cool to the touch. You trace the iconic lines, the eyebrow, the pupil, the teardrop marking of the falcon. You remember the story. Horus lost his eye in his great battle against his uncle Seth, the god of chaos. The eye was shattered, but the wise god Thoth magically reassembled it, making it whole and even more powerful than before. Thus, the Udjet is the ultimate symbol of healing, protection, and restoration. It is the unblinking eye of order watching over you, a divine security camera that sees all threats and actively repels them. Now, for the most specialized piece of equipment in your nocturnal arsenal. You retrieve it from a shelf. It is a curved, flat object, about the length of your forearm, carved from a polished hippopotamus tusk. It looks something like a large knife or a small scimitar, but it has no sharp edge. This is an apotropaic wand, a tool of pure magic. Its surface, yellowed with age, is covered in the most incredible, intricate carvings. Here is a veritable parade of the Divine Protection Squad. Bes brandishes his knife, Taret the hippo goddess holds her symbol of protection, a winged griffin rears up, the frog goddess of fertility Hecate crouches ready, and a walking lion-headed figure prowls forward. It is a congress of champions, an all-star team of guardians. These wands were particularly used to protect the most vulnerable, women in childbirth and sleeping children. As a mother, you might take this wand and, whispering a soft incantation, draw an invisible, magical circle on the floor around your child's cot. The wand activates the space, creating a shimmering barrier of divine energy, a magical perimeter fence that no demon, ghost, or nightmare could ever hope to cross. You can see now how it all works together. This is defense in depth. The bed is the outer wall. The wand draws the boundary line. The headrest guards the main gate of your consciousness. The amulets are the personal bodyguards for your cot, the physical body you leave behind. This entire system is designed for one purpose, to keep your physical form safe and sound while your BA, your wandering soul, is off on its perilous journey through the dream time. It's a comfort and a necessity. It ensures that after a night of encountering gods and demons, of decoding prophecies and witnessing omens, your soul has a safe, secure, and well-defended harbor to return to at the first light of dawn. You have fortified your sleeping space with the physical objects of magic, a multi-layered defense system for your body and soul. For centuries, for millennia, this intricate system of belief, the wandering bee, the diagnostic dreams, the magical countermeasures, functioned within the self-contained world of the Nile Valley, protected by its vast desert borders. But no culture, no matter how ancient or proud, is truly an island. Ideas are themselves a kind of wandering soul, able to drift across borders on the winds of trade, conquest, and simple human curiosity. The Egyptian system of dream interpretation, so structured and so profound, was one of the nation's most fascinating, and ultimately influential exports. Imagine a bustling port city on the Levantine coast, a place like Byblos or Tyre. An Egyptian merchant, having unloaded his cargo of grain and fine linen, shares a drink with a local Canaanite trader. He recounts a strange dream he had the night before and the interpretation a temple priest gave him. The Canaanite listens, fascinated. He has his own tradition of dream interpretation. The great tales of his own culture are filled with prophetic dreams, but there is a scientific seeming certainty to the Egyptian method that is new and compelling. The story is retold, the idea planted in new soil. Through countless small interactions like this, over hundreds of years, the seeds of Egyptian dream theory were scattered across the ancient Near East. But the most fertile ground for these ideas, the place where they would be adopted, adapted, and reborn, was to the north, across the Great Green, as the Egyptians called the Mediterranean Sea. The relationship with the Greeks began as a trickle, traders and mercenaries seeking wealth and adventure in the ancient kingdom of the pharaohs. The Greeks were a young, boisterous, and intensely curious people, and to them, Egypt was a land of staggering antiquity and mystical wisdom. They looked at the pyramids, already thousands of years old, with the same awe that we look at them today. They were fascinated by Egyptian religion and magic, and they became eager students. A Greek traveler, perhaps a philosopher or a physician, might have visited a sanatorium like the one you attended in your imagination, a place where people slept to receive divine dreams. He would have watched the solemn rituals, the purifications, the chanting, and seen the hope on the faces of the supplicants. He would have been amazed by this idea of a spiritual hospital. He takes this concept back to Greece. Soon, all across the Greek world, temples to their own god of healing, Asclepius, begin to function in a remarkably similar way. Patients sleep in a sacred dormitory called an abaton, hoping the god will visit them in a dream, either performing a miraculous cure on the spot or providing a clear prescription for a remedy. The practice of temple incubation had been successfully transplanted from the Nile to the Aegean. Then came the conquest of Alexander the Great, and a new dynasty of Greek pharaohs, the Ptolemies, ruled Egypt. The two cultures began to merge in fascinating ways. The new rulers, wanting to unify their Greek and Egyptian subjects, performed a brilliant act of religious engineering. They created a new god, Serapis. He was a divine fusion, a purpose-built deity for a multicultural world. He had the beard and bearing of the Greek high god Zeus, but he was also associated with the Egyptian gods of the underworld and rebirth, Osiris and the sacred Apis bull. Serapis was a god for everyone, and one of his primary functions was as a master of healing and prophecy through dreams. His temples, called serapeums, became hugely popular, not just in Egypt, but across the entire Hellenistic world. The ancient Egyptian practice of incubation was now available in an updated, export-friendly package. You could go to a serapeum in Alexandria, Athens, or even Rome to receive the same kind of dream guidance that was once available only in the temples of Imhotep. The influence ran even deeper, right into the libraries and studies of Greek scholars. In the 2nd century AD, a Greek author named Artemidorus of Daldis wrote the most comprehensive book on dream interpretation to survive from the ancient world, the Oneirocritica. As you listen to a description of his work, it sounds uncannily familiar. It's a massive list of dream scenarios, each beginning with the formula, if a man dreams, followed by an interpretation of what it means. Artemidorus classifies dreams as good or bad, and many of his interpretations rely on the same kind of wordplay and puns you heard about from the Egyptian dream book. Scholars fiercely debate the extent of direct transmission versus parallel development. Did Artemidorus have a copy of an Egyptian dream book on his desk, or did two different cultures simply arrive at similar conclusions about how the dreaming mind works? It is a tantalizing question, but the echoes of the Nile are unmistakable. Later, the Romans, who conquered the Greeks and absorbed much of their culture, also fell under Egypt's spell. Roman emperors styled themselves as pharaohs when in Egypt, and the worship of Egyptian gods, particularly the benevolent mother goddess Isis, spread like wildfire throughout the empire. A Roman centurion stationed in the cold, damp frontier of Britain might carry a small amulet of Isis, praying to her for a prophetic dream to guide him. A wealthy senator's wife in Rome itself might secretly visit a priest of Isis to have a disturbing nightmare decoded, using an interpretive system whose DNA could be traced all the way back to the papyrus Chester Beatty and the shaven-headed priests of the New Kingdom. The whispers from the Nile traveled far, echoing for centuries in languages and lands the ancient dream keepers themselves had never known. The whispers from the Nile, carried across the Mediterranean, found a home in the sprawling, multicultural Roman Empire. For a time, it seemed this ancient wisdom would live forever, adapted and adopted by new cultures. In the bustling streets of Rome itself, you could find temples dedicated to the Egyptian goddess Isis, her priests, with their shaved heads and white linen robes, looking much like their counterparts in Memphis or Thebes. The belief in a divinely ordered cosmos, in prophetic dreams, and in magical protection was a powerful and attractive system. But another belief, born in a distant corner of that same empire, was spreading with even greater force, and it carried with it a new and revolutionary dream for humanity. This was the rise of Christianity. You can now imagine the two systems of thought, the old and the new, existing side by side for a time, a quiet spiritual struggle taking place in the hearts and minds of individuals. The new faith was uncompromisingly monotheistic. There was only one God. Suddenly, the rich and complex pantheon of Egyptian deities had no place. What was a new convert to do with Bes, the jolly, protective dwarf god? Or Taaret, the fierce guardian of the family? They could not be accepted as gods. So, they were slowly reframed, demoted from divine guardians to dangerous demons, pagan spirits to be shunned. The entire cosmic operating system was being replaced. The struggle was no longer between Ma'at and Isfet, order and chaos, but between God and Satan, salvation and sin. A bad dream was no longer a warning from a concerned deity or a symptom of cosmic imbalance. It was a temptation from the devil, a spiritual attack to be rebuffed with prayer to the one true God. The change was not instantaneous. It was a slow, creeping tide. As Christianity grew from a persecuted sect to the state religion of the Roman Empire, the official tolerance for the old ways began to wane. The great temples of Egypt, which had been the centers of learning, medicine, and magic for 3,000 years, lost their state funding. Their lands were confiscated. The flow of new priests dwindled to a trickle. You can picture an aging lector priest in a once great temple, the halls now quiet and dusty, with only a handful of the faithful coming to seek wisdom. The old certainties were crumbling. The world was changing. The final act came in the 6th century AD. You are transported to a beautiful island in the Nile at the southern border of Egypt. This is Philae, the last bastion of the ancient faith, home to a magnificent temple dedicated to the goddess Isis. For decades, it had been the final place where the old rites were still officially performed, a last ember of a dying fire. But now, the order has come from the Christian emperor in Constantinople. The temple is to be closed forever. You watch as the last priest performs the last ceremony, his chanting voice echoing in the nearly empty halls. He makes the final offerings, snuffs out the sacred flames, and the great wooden doors of the temple are closed and sealed. A silence that will last for more than 1,000 years descends upon the house of the goddess. With the temples closed, the schools where the scribes learned their complex, sacred art also vanished. The knowledge of how to read the ancient scripts, the hieroglyphic and hieratic, began to fade with shocking speed. Near that same temple at Philae, you can see a final, poignant piece of evidence. A simple, scratched piece of graffiti, the last known hieroglyphic inscription, dated to the year 394 AD. After that, nothing. The key to understanding 3 millennia of history, law, poetry, medicine, and of course, the thousands of recorded dreams, was lost. It was as if someone had forgotten the password to an entire civilization. The dream books could no longer be read. The spells on the medical papyri were now just meaningless squiggles. The knowledge wasn't destroyed. It was simply locked away in a code that no living person could decipher. But did the beliefs themselves vanish overnight? Historians debate how quickly the old ways vanished among the rural populace after the temples were closed. A farmer, now a devout Coptic Christian, might have a nightmare. He would cross himself and say a prayer to Jesus or a saint to protect him. But perhaps, just perhaps, he would also whisper an old phrase his grandmother taught him, a charm against night terrors that, unbeknownst to him, once invoked Horus. Perhaps he would still place a certain smooth stone under his child's pillow, not knowing the tradition began with the Eye of Horus amulets. The old gods went into hiding, surviving in folk tales, superstitions, and half-remembered gestures. Bess might have morphed into a mischievous but ultimately harmless household goblin in a village story. The deep, foundational belief that the night was a time of spiritual travel and potential prophecy never entirely vanished. It simply put on new clothes and learned to speak a new language, its ancient Egyptian roots buried deep beneath the surface, waiting in a long, dark slumber for a new generation of interpreters to come and reawaken it. And so, our long, quiet journey through the gentle mysteries of the Egyptian dream world comes to a soft and gentle close. The story of the priests and the pharaohs, the farmers and the artisans, now fades back into the deep, silent sands of history, their voices receding into a soft, indistinct whisper on the warm night air. The weight of their worries about Ma'at and Isfit, the texture of their papyrus scrolls, the cool, solid feel of their stone headrests, you can let it all begin to dissolve, releasing you from the narrative and returning you to the simple, quiet comfort of your own bed in your own time. Feel the story loosen its hold, its details becoming hazy and distant, like a dream you are already beginning to forget upon waking. There is nothing more to analyze, nothing more to learn. Your only task now is to feel the gentle pull of your own approaching sleep, a soft and welcome tide. The Nile of your own consciousness is slowing, its currents becoming calm and deep as it flows towards the tranquil ocean of slumber. Let the last images fade away, leaving only the darkness, the quiet, and the profound peace of this moment. Your own BA is ready for its flight, and tonight, its journey will be calm, untroubled, and deeply restorative. Just let go. There is only rest now. Soft, easy, gentle sleep. Drift away.